The majority of Americans hate women. The majority of Americans hate women more than they love anything, including democracy. Close quote. Did I read that correctly?
I am not sure what this has to do with the subject matter of this.
Did you say it?
Senator John Kennedy does an outstanding job of taking apart unbelievably arrogant law professor Marianne Franks from George Washington University. I will interrupt this interrogation in a couple of places, hopefully not too much, and I hope you enjoy this confrontation.
As I understand it, your position, Professor Franks, is that I think you used the word myth. It is a myth that the Biden administration used government to compel speech, private speech, but that the Trump administration is doing that. Is that a fair characterization?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Do you think perhaps you're allowing your personal political beliefs to affect your objectivity here?
No, I do not. What is guiding my answers here is that I'm looking to see what the Supreme Court has said. You notice that in the testimony about the censorship industrial complex.
I got that part.
No, I just
got
want
that
to
part.
clarify.
No, but I've only got 5 minutes. Your answer is no, as I appreciate it. Let me ask you a couple questions. You wrote a law review article in December of 2023 for the New York University Law Review, and it was about the two cases, Bruin, Supreme Court case, and Dobbs. Remember that article?
Yes, I do.
Okay. In this article, you said, I'm going to quote your words, "Taken together, these two cases demonstrate that the Supreme Court has embraced the use of the Constitution as a tool of racial patriarchy," end quote. Did you say that?
Yes.
Okay. And then you went on to say, quote, "When the Supreme Court declares that there is a constitutional right to armed self-defense in public, it openly embraces and promotes a culture that privileges white men's ability to terrorize and kill those that they perceive as threats," close quote. Did I read that correctly?
I believe so. Thank you for reading.
Okay. And did you also say in that article, I'm going to quote again, quote, "by simultaneously expanding white men's right to kill and constricting women's right not to die, this Supreme Court," referring to the current United States Supreme Court, "has turned the Constitution into a homicide pact as well," close quote. Did you write that?
That sounds like me.
Here, Senator Kennedy, in his inimitable way, is setting up a smug and arrogant Franks beautifully. She's patronizing, arrogant, and unbelievably superior in her attitude. She's incredibly extreme, even for a left-wing academic. She talks about the Supreme Court setting up a racial patriarchy with a homicide pact where armed self-defense rights gives whites permission to kill blacks. Well, hang on a second. Where does it say anywhere that only whites are allowed to be armed and blacks are disarmed? There's none of that. With one of her extreme statements, she actually proudly and smugly asserts, "That sounds like me." Let's continue watching Senator Kennedy masterfully take her apart.
Okay. In November of 2024, you tweet, don't you?
I'm not sure what the current terminology is for it, but yes, I am sometimes on the social platform that was formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, you're on a lot, aren't you?
I'm not sure what the relevance of that is.
You try to be provocative on there, don't you?
Again, I'm not sure what the relevance
Well,
of this question is.
let me show you the relevance. On November 7th, 2024, from your tweet, here's one of your tweets at 2:41 p.m., quote, The majority of Americans hate women. The majority of Americans hate women more than they love anything, including democracy, close quote. Did I read that correctly?
I am not sure what this has to do with the subject matter of this
Did
hearing.
you say it?
I do not have those words in front of me. I probably said something along those lines, but
Yeah,
what is
you
the
said it.
relevance
Here
of that
it
to
is,
this
big as
hearing?
Dallas, right there.
Yes.
But your political beliefs don't impact your feelings about President Biden or President Trump.
I don't have feelings about either of them. What I have
Sounds
is
to me like you have your favorite feeling is anger.
Franks maintains that the majority of Americans hate women more than they love anything. That is very strange. In fact, it's an outlandish statement, given that the majority of citizens in the United States are female. But here she's clearly getting the idea that things are not going too well for her, as she's now trying to tell Senator Kennedy that she doesn't know what the questions he is asking has to do with the hearing. A clue to Franks: you don't set the agenda of what can and cannot be said. You go to these hearings where presumably what you're wanting to do is boost your profile. Well, be prepared for incoming. And to suggest that you have no feelings on either side of politics when your contempt for those on the right side of politics oozes from every pore in your body. It is very evident how uncomfortable she is. And Kennedy is right. Her predominant emotion is anger. Let's continue to enjoy seeing Kennedy take Franks apart.
Let me ask you this. You issued another tweet. This was in May of 2022. You've just been tweeting up a storm. You said, quote, "There's a reason why the conservative-dominated Supreme Court thinks the Constitution does not contain a right to an abortion, but is convinced that it contains an individual right to possess firearms. And that reason is white male supremacy," close quote. Did I read that correctly?
Is there a question in this?
Did I read that correctly? That's
Is there
my
a question that is relevant to this hearing?
Did I read that correctly? Do you really think that the United States Supreme Court, you're an officer of the court, is guided by white male supremacy?
I believe that the First Amendment prohibits the president
Did you
and other
say
state
that?
officials for punishing people for
Did
their
you honestly say that, Professor?
I
And you
believe
expect us,
that the First
as a
Amendment,
Democratic witness, to take you seriously? Are you kidding me?
I believe that you should take
You
the First
heard of
Amendment
curb your
seriously, sir.
enthusiasm? Here's my saying, curb my nausea.
For a law professor, Franks is clueless. Nowhere in the Constitution is there a right to abortion, either implied or otherwise. Once again, she is clearly uncomfortable with being nailed on things that she has written. She talks about First Amendment, but she seems to want the rights, but not the responsibility. The Constitution certainly gives people the right to freedom of speech, but that does not mean that you have protection from being held to account for what you say. She's typical of left-wing academic ivory tower dwellers. All rights for her, but those others should not have rights compared upon them. Here I'm talking about the common swill that makes up the rest of Americans in her mind. And she certainly shouldn't be held accountable for anything. We should just all be grateful for the masterful thinking that she has. What do you think about this confrontation between Senator Kennedy and Franks? Please let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy this content, please like, share and subscribe. And thanks for watching.